Hey y'all, what's up? What's up? Yeah, this is a serious issue. Should have showed y'all first. I think I'm gonna show y'all after this and then come back of the plan. Um, but to get rid of us, the food thing is not fast enough, I guess. So now they made it with a water situation, and now they fucking with Mother Nature. And they know we can't do anything without Mother Nature. You know, they think that they can, but it has to be non-human. It definitely has to be non-human. But we're gonna look at some videos, and then we're gonna come back and do some readings. Because this retrograde coming up in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio. Um, yeah, it's deep. So we're gonna look at some videos first, and then we'll come back and show y'all what I've been looking at as well. So whoever interested, this is serious issues. Okay, the agenda is real. Okay, so we're gonna start off looking at the videos of the data centers I found in a drought in different areas, and who agreed to have the data centers, and who have not, and what's really happening, um, and the agenda. Okay. Alrighty. So let me go over here to the videos, and we'll be back doing readings after that. Okay. Hold on, I gotta plug up my charger first. I was gonna start about looking at inside the data centers, but I think I'm gonna go back to this lady. Let's go back to her. The seriousness of the issue. Okay. Right here.
They can't live without water, and they can't now drink their water.
You know, what does a data center do in terms of the environmental drag on a community?
So what they're reporting is, this is not just a few towns here or there, it's just everybody has the same report. During the construction phase, these are not small facilities. They're 2,200 acres. They're 3,000 acres. They're 4,000 acres. And the first thing that they get extremely upset about is the destruction of the land. You're talking rural land. So all the trees, all the vegetation, all the farmland, all goes away. It's disruptive to their sanctuary. It's disruptive to the wildlife. People are definitely reporting changes in the wildlife, the absence of wildlife, dead wildlife, and they find that very concerning. And in the construction phase, wells can often get damaged. The construction,
I'm from the United States.
for people that are there will tell you, it's almost violent. You can feel the ground shaking, so all
Listen
your
to the
water can get
message.
very turbid.
Okay, this
People
involves
have lost
everybody.
their well pressure.
If they coming for
Their
us,
wells
they
have
coming
been
for y'all.
damaged. They're having to deal for deeper wells. And the gentleman that I reported on, Austin Newsom is his name, and he's in a litigation, but his house is unlivable at this point because now the water, you can't drink the water, you can't bathe the water pressure's too low. He's got young children and they just can't, I mean, people now reporting their utility bills that used to be, you know, a water bill that was $30 is now almost $300. We
Why is
are
it going
paying
so
the
fast?
because of all the energy that has to be required to build these huge data centers. And
So the
this is
locals are
something-
paying the bill.
Correct. They can't live without water, and they can't now drink their water.
You know, what
Yeah. What else I was looking at? Okay. Texas Gordon becomes world's largest state. It's another one I was looking at too. Okay, Trump approved it, but it's getting out of hand. Google data centers. see. Listen to some of this. Yeah, they know that. See, sometimes you could be greedy, but the full agenda, you may think you're getting over on others, but it could backfire on your
Right now,
ass.
Texas Senate toss-up. Analysts shift the race between Democrat James Tallarico and Republican Ken Paxton to toss-up status. What the candidates are saying about each other on social media. Big Bend backlash. The Trump administration pauses construction in Big Bend National Park. We hear from one sheriff in the area on what's next. And data center pushback. Texans express their concerns over data centers to state lawmakers, as Governor Abbott tells me his plan to pause construction is working. Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Jack Fink. Get your fix for Texas politics. Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas starts now.
Let me go to the drought. Let me see. This plan. Texas. Okay. Now this is what's actually been happening. I just looked at it. Damn, I wish I'd have thought about y'all first. Drought. Oh. Yeah, there you go. Weather works. Senator, drought forces Abilene. Gives drought to be final. Major fires. Texas lakes drying out. I want to do different cities. Texas alert drops. Let me see. Let me go back.
Could this be the first modern American city to run out of water? Situated along the Texas coast, the 317,000 residents of Corpus Christi are staring down a crisis.
As a resident, I fear that our water loss will lead to a catastrophe.
A 5-year-long drought has depleted the city's main water reserves to historic lows.
Wow.
So low that officials have warned emergency restrictions may be needed to prevent demand from outpacing supply. But some local officials and residents say the impending crisis
It's
may
been
have
happening.
been preventable.
Nobody wants to get on it because it
in my
wasn't
heart
happening to
that
them.
This is not the residents'
I've been
fault
showing
that
this
we're in
way before I got
drought.
on the
I know
internet.
Mother Nature did her part, but the refineries is the one who's taking all of our water.
Corpus Christi's port is the largest energy export site in the U.S. and a major hub for steel production. Industries that rely on tons of water for cooling, refining, and manufacturing. In Corpus Christi, just 12 companies use around 55% of the city's water, according to city officials. Meanwhile, residents have had their water use restricted, and the city has promoted conservation efforts, including selling rain barrels to residents to collect their own water.
I went out and got them after we had the first storm because I saw all the water was coming on. So I had turf front and back. It's just a tiny bit, but then of course, if everybody's doing it, it's not a tiny bit anymore.
So that's 4 55-gallon, and then 2 of the city barrels that are 50 gallons each, so I've got about 300 gallons.
I conserve water by allotting myself just a few moments for a shower and just doing what everyone else is doing, not watering your lawn and that sort of stuff.
By fall of 2027, each household is expected to need to cut down even further to just 6,000 gallons per household per month.
They're trying to cut back as much as they can already, and for them to cut back even more, it's gonna be hard.
One solution under consideration is a nearly $1 billion desalination plant that would turn seawater into fresh water. It's a plan backed by the state's Governor Greg Abbott and local industry leaders. But environmental concerns and rising costs have slowed the planning process.
We are saying no more. The people of Corpus Christi are saying no more.
Corpus Christi is not running out of water. The refineries are running out of water. We, as a community, are going to be okay.
You know, we have to look for alternative water sources to water our plants. Why don't they have to look for alternative water sources to run their operations?
Look how far it's come up.
For now, recent rain and the start of the hurricane season has bought Corpus Christi some time. But residents, officials, and industry leaders still face the same question. Who gets the water when there isn't enough to go around? And as droughts become more severe, and as housing and data center expansion drive demand for water, Corpus Christi may offer a glimpse of challenges other Americans could soon face.
Wow. Okay, let's go back to droughts around the nation. Uh-oh.
Climate change is...
At YoPlay, we always select the best strawberries. Perfectly ripe. That's why our yogurt is so good. YoPlay, America's favorite strawberry yogurt.
I'm taking the business in a whole new direction.
Yeah, my job is to make sure we okay. Okay.
Tell me more.
That should be everybody's
Climate change
job.
is making rainfall and droughts more extreme and unpredictable, which means we need groundwater more than ever as a buffer to support us when rivers dry up and rain doesn't fall.
Because it's not dependent on the last season's rainfall, it's effectively much more climate resilient.
But the thing about groundwater is that it's not a renewable resource in the same way that surface water is. It behaves more like oil. Once we pump it out, it's often gone for good. And now scientists warn that we're rapidly approaching a tipping point, something called peak water, the moment groundwater supply begins an irreversible decline, meaning that each year we'll have less of it available than the year before. And groundwater is foundational to modern human life. It supplies nearly a third of the world's fresh water and over 40% of global irrigation. But now, all of these forces are on a collision course, worsening droughts, rising food demand, and shrinking aquifers. And a new study has modeled exactly when and where global peak water is expected to hit. And it's not good news for some of the world's most important food-producing regions. In one country, it's gotten so severe, they're moving their entire capital city. At first, pumping groundwater seemed kind of like a miracle. Clean, accessible water on demand with no visible consequences. In the United States, that water has fueled the growth of some of the country's most productive farming regions, including California's Central Valley, Arizona, and the High Plains. Regions with hot, sunny climates perfect for growing crops, but with nowhere near enough rainfall to support large-scale farming on their own. And similar stories have played out across the world, like in northern India and Pakistan, Mexico, Iran, and across the Middle East. Dry regions with fertile land and fast-growing populations. Groundwater is one of our most precious resources, but it's also one of the least visible.
Surface water is the water we can see flowing in rivers and comes from the rain. Then part of this water infiltrates into the ground and is stored underneath in the porous rock and soil, and this forms then what is called an aquifer.
This filling or recharge process is so slow that much of the water stored in aquifers is truly ancient, sometimes tens of thousands of years old, which is why it's often called fossil water. That makes it essentially non-renewable on human timescales. But we haven't treated it that way. Instead of seeing groundwater as a finite resource, we've pumped it as if it were endless. So where has that left us? Well, in California's Central Valley, water tables have dropped by hundreds of feet in some places. Thousands of wells have run dry, with entire communities losing access to water. And in some places, the land itself is sinking by up to 2 inches per month due to subsidence. In Arizona, enormous fissures have opened up across the landscape, in some cases over a mile long. Across the high plains, some farmers have had to drill so deep to access water that some wells now cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you might think that as groundwater stress increases, we'd slow our extraction and begin managing it more sustainably, right? Right?
We're looking at data for 40 countries. These areas accounted for 75% of groundwater withdrawals globally.
This was the most comprehensive study ever conducted of its kind. In total, they looked at data from 178,000 wells.
It didn't surprise us too much that groundwater levels are declining. What was really striking for us is that the rate of decline was accelerating in many places.
In other words, not only are aquifers shrinking, they're shrinking faster than ever before. So why aren't we managing this water more carefully? Well, part of the answer, at least, lies in climate change.
The groundwater itself is not too much affected by climate change. But the people adapt to climate change and use the groundwater which they usually would have taken when rain was falling regularly.
So we find ourselves in a catch-22. As droughts grow longer and more intense, we rely more and more on groundwater to fill the gap, which only speeds up depletion. But at the same time, we'll need that groundwater more than ever in the future, precisely because droughts are getting worse. Which raises the big question: how far are we from the tipping point when groundwater availability peaks and begins its indefinite decline? This is exactly what a new study set out to understand. On a global scale, a team of researchers ran 900 simulations using one of the world's most advanced human Earth system models. These scenarios explored a wide range of possible futures: different climate trajectories, population growth, energy demands, and water policy. Well, in nearly all of the 900 scenarios, global groundwater extraction follows a clear peak and decline pattern, with the global peak projected around 2050, just a couple decades away. And many of the places most likely to peak are among the most important food-producing regions on Earth and will expose about half of the world's population to water stress. These include critical farming regions in the western United States, Mexico, India, Pakistan, and China, as well as several other countries in the Middle East and Mediterranean. Now, to be clear, groundwater doesn't peak because it disappears entirely. There's still a vast volume of water beneath our feet, but as aquifers are pumped, water tables fall, and that water becomes harder and more expensive to reach. Wells must go deeper, energy use rises, and costs skyrocket. Eventually, many users hit a breaking point. Some adapt by switching crops or importing food. Others stop pumping altogether. And that's what scientists mean by peak water: the moment when extraction becomes too difficult, too costly, or too damaging to continue at the same pace. And in this way, groundwater mirrors the behavior of other depletable resources like oil and minerals. So if one of the most essential resources for growing food and sustaining life is already entering a phase of irreversible decline, what happens next? Well, for starters, food is likely to get more expensive. As water becomes harder to access, these major farming regions may struggle to keep up production. And this doesn't just affect local food security. It can ripple out to global markets, impacting international trade. And it's not just agriculture that's at risk. Wetlands and rivers that depend on groundwater can dry out, damaging ecosystems and wiping out habitat. And as water levels drop, contamination can spread, with pollutants like arsenic and salt concentrating or seeping in from surrounding layers. And then there's one final impact that's so severe, it's already caused one of the world's largest capital cities to plan its relocation. subsidence. And we're just beginning to see its effects in cities all over the world.
As aquifers are depleted, the structural framework that supports the land begins to compact slowly.
Compaction happens because as the water is removed, the tiny spaces between soil and rock particles collapse inward, squeezing the ground tighter and tighter.
Ground subsidence is often one of the most clear physical indicators that a region has surpassed that tipping point. And this compaction can lead to permanent loss of storage capacity.
Which means that even if groundwater level rises in the future, the aquifer will no longer be able to contain or store the same volume of water that it once did. In Leonard's study, he focused on the urban impacts of subsidence. Specifically, he analyzed 28 major U.S. cities, all with populations over 600,000.
And what we found that in all of these cities, they have measurable subsidence from 1 millimeter per year on average to greater than 5 millimeters per year.
Of the 28, the fastest sinking cities were Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, New York, and Chicago.
But more significantly, in every single city, we found that there are areas that have rates greater than 5 millimeters per year.
In the cities Leonard analyzed, he found over 29,000 separate buildings that exist in high to very high-risk zones. And these findings matter because when the ground sinks unevenly, it can damage roads, pipelines, railways, and even building foundations. But subsidence is perhaps the biggest problem for coastal cities because it happens on top of sea level rise.
You have two major hazards that you have to respond to. And you have increase to the frequency of tidal floodings, storm surge, or even total inundation for particular cities.
In the United States, Leonard's study highlights several cities where this is already becoming a concern, including New York, Houston, and New Orleans. But globally, the most dramatic example is Jakarta, Indonesia's capital. Some parts of the city are sinking by up to 10 to 25 centimeters a year due to heavy groundwater use, soft soils, and rapid urban development. Today, over 40% of Jakarta sits below sea level, making it dangerously flood prone. The problem has gotten so severe that the Indonesian government is now building an entirely new capital city. But as bad as all of this sounds, there's also reason for hope, which strangely might be hidden within part of the problem. Earlier, we discussed how climate change is making the hydrologic cycle more extreme, leading to more intense droughts and also more intense rainfall. Well, new research is revealing that those very extremes might help us recover if we're paying attention.
What we were finding was a bias in the replenishment of groundwater to heavy, often extreme rainfall.
While steady seasonal rain may no longer be as reliable, sporadic but more intense downpours could still offer excellent opportunities to recharge depleted aquifers, but only if we're ready to capture that water. That means identifying where the ground is most permeable, protecting open spaces, and building infrastructure designed to absorb water, not just divert it. One way or another, we're going to have to learn how to manage our groundwater more sustainably because droughts are going to get worse in the coming decades. And this resource will only become more essential. So does your community rely on groundwater or face frequent droughts? What changes, if any, have you seen in how people treat water? Let us know in the comments and see you next time on Weather.
I started a business to give old folks a new life, and Chase has supported me from the beginning.
Inside Cork reverse osmosis, powerful multi-stage filtration reduces up to 90 contaminants you can't see.
There is one rule that every civilization in human history has followed without exception. You do not build where the water is not. You put your cities next to rivers. You farm where rain falls. You survive where nature allows it. And if nature stops cooperating, you leave. That was the deal. For thousands of years, not one empire, not one dynasty, not one superpower ever managed to break it. The Romans tried to hold arid territory in North Africa. They failed. The Mesopotamians built some of the most advanced irrigation systems the ancient world had ever seen, and still collapsed when the water ran out. Every single attempt to outrun geography ended the same way. The desert always wins. So when you hear what is happening right now in northwestern China, your first instinct is going to be disbelief. Because what engineers have pulled off there does not just bend that ancient rule, it snaps it in half. Picture this. A pipeline longer than the entire width of the continental United States. Billions upon billions of liters of water physically carried across mountain ranges, through empty desert, over hundreds of miles of nothing. Not river water, not rainwater, ocean water, pulled straight from the sea, moved across an entire country, cleaned and used to grow forests in one of the driest, most hostile places on the entire planet. And here is the part that should make you stop and read that again. It is already working. The trees are in the ground. The pipeline is running. The desert is retreating. This is not a proposal. It is not a concept drawing. It is happening right now. And the scale of it is so enormous that even the people who built it took years to fully believe it was possible. To understand how they got here, you need to understand just how bad things got first. Because this was not a project born from ambition alone. It was born from desperation. And before we get into that, if you are the kind of person who finds this stuff genuinely fascinating, stories about engineering that quietly reshapes the world while most people are not paying attention, that is exactly what this channel is built around. Not viral headlines, not surface level overviews, just the real mechanics of how the world actually changes. Hit subscribe and you will see why people keep coming back. Like also helps more people find this video. And honestly, this is one of those stories that deserves a bigger audience. Section 1. The ground was disappearing. If you split China down the middle and look at both halves, they might as well be two different planets. The southern half is green, wet and full of water. Rivers snake through it constantly. The Yangtze River alone carries more fresh water than most countries will ever have access to in their entire history. Rain comes reliably. Reservoirs fill. Life is easy, at least when it comes to water. Now look north. Completely different story. The northern half of China holds somewhere around 1/3 of the entire country's population. It is where some of the biggest cities in the world sit. It is where an enormous portion of the country's food is grown. It is where massive industrial zones hum along 24 hours a day, consuming water by the billions of liters. And that entire half of the country sits on less than 10% of China's fresh water supply. 10% of the water. 1/3 of the people. Do the math on that, and it is already alarming. Now factor in that for decades, the North survived by pumping water out of the ground. Water that had been slowly accumulating underground for thousands of years. Ancient reserves built up over millennia. And you start to understand the size of the problem, because you cannot pump ancient groundwater forever. Once it is gone, it is gone. You will not see it refill in your lifetime, or your children's lifetimes, or their children's lifetimes. And China was pumping it out fast. Faster than anyone had projected. Faster than the infrastructure was designed to handle. The ground itself started sinking. Not metaphorically, literally. Cities in northern China were physically dropping in elevation, year after year, as the water beneath them was removed, and nothing replaced the empty space. In some areas, the subsidence was measurable in meters. Buildings developed cracks, roads buckled. Infrastructure that had been designed with one set of ground conditions suddenly found itself sitting on something completely different. And while the cities were sinking, the desert was advancing. The Gobi Desert, one of the largest and most aggressive deserts in Asia, was creeping southward and eastward at a pace that shocked researchers. Sand dunes were appearing in places that had been farmland a generation earlier. Villages that showed up clearly on maps from the 1980s were completely buried under sand by the early 2000s. Roads built to last 50 years were swallowed in 10. Dust storms originating in the desert were traveling hundreds of miles and turning the skies over major cities a deep, hazy orange in the middle of the afternoon. Farmers were watching their wells go dry. A well that used to hit water at 30 meters had to be drilled to 100 meters, then deeper, then nothing at all. Families that had worked the same land for generations were looking at the very real possibility of having to abandon everything and move. Scientists were publishing reports that nobody in government wanted to read, laying out which regions would need to be evacuated first and on what timeline. The sand was not creeping, it was charging. And the most alarming part was not just how far it had already come, it was the acceleration. Researchers mapping the desert boundaries decade by decade found that the rate of advance was speeding up, not slowing down. More land lost per year in the 90s than in the 80s. More again in the 2000s. As if the desert was learning how to move faster, the more ground it took. The human cost of all this was immense and largely invisible to the outside world. Entire communities built by parents and grandparents, with schools and temples and markets and history stretching back generations, simply ceased to exist. People packed what they could carry and moved to already crowded cities, swapping a dying village for an overcrowded apartment. Agricultural knowledge accumulated over centuries about which crops grew best in which soil and how to read the seasonal water patterns. All of it went unused because the land it applied to was gone. Meanwhile, the dust storms were getting worse. Northern Chinese cities were experiencing orange skies and zero visibility events that a generation earlier would have seemed apocalyptic. Fine desert particulates were being detected in air quality monitors thousands of kilometers away. The Gobi was not just a geographic fact anymore. It was a weather system. And the question was no longer whether something drastic needed to happen. The question was whether anything drastic enough actually existed. Turns out it did. It just required rethinking what was physically possible. Section 2. The pipe that rewrote the map. The first move was something that had been discussed for decades, but never fully attempted. If the North did not have enough water, and the South had more than it could use, why not just connect them? Simple idea. Almost incomprehensible execution. The South to North Water Transfer Project is the single largest water-moving infrastructure ever constructed by human hands. Nothing else in history comes close. It stretches 4,345 kilometers across the country. To give you a sense of what that distance actually feels like, that is longer than the straight line distance from London to New York. It runs along 3 separate routes. One follows the eastern coast. One cuts through the middle of the country. One carves through the western mountain ranges. Together, they form a system that functions less like a plumbing project and more like a second river system, one that was designed, built, and switched on by engineers. The numbers are hard to wrap your head around. The system is designed to move 44.8 billion cubic meters of water every single year. That is enough to fill 18 million Olympic swimming pools annually without stopping. Every year. Continuously. To build it, engineers had to bore thousands of tunnels through solid mountain rock. They built hundreds of river crossings. They invented new methods for maintaining water pressure across distances so long that the physics of the problem had never been solved at that scale before. Entire towns were relocated to make way for the route. Tens of thousands of workers spent years in some of the most remote and difficult terrain in China just to lay pipe and concrete. By 2022, the eastern and middle routes together had already delivered more than 50 billion cubic meters of water. More than 140 million people now receive water from this system. Beijing, which was genuinely facing a crisis with its underground water reserves collapsing, stabilized. Aquifers that had been dropping for decades began recovering. Farms that had been slowly dying came back to life. By any measure, it is one of the most remarkable engineering accomplishments in modern history. The sheer logistics of coordinating construction across that distance, managing thousands of contractors, sourcing materials at that scale, keeping water quality consistent across hundreds of kilometers of open channel and enclosed pipe would fill several books on their own. Engineers who worked on the project have described it as building a city, except the city is 1,000 kilometers long and has to function as a single continuous system from day one. And yet the people who built it realized, even as the last sections were being completed, that it was not going to be enough. The cities were saved, The groundwater was recovering, but the desert was still moving. The sand did not care about pipes and tunnels and pump stations. It was still advancing, still swallowing land, still grinding southward. If the goal was just to keep the cities alive, the project had succeeded. But if the goal was to actually stop the desert, something else entirely was going to be needed. Something that went far beyond rerouting rivers. Here is where the thinking shifted in a direction that nobody in the history of engineering had ever seriously proposed before. Section 3. Using the one thing that never runs out. At some point in the planning process, an engineer somewhere looked at a map, looked at the problem, and said something like, "What if we used the ocean?" And you can imagine the room going quiet. Because using seawater is not just difficult. It is, by conventional wisdom, one of the worst ideas you can have when it comes to land and agriculture. Seawater does not just fail to help plants grow. It actively destroys the soil it touches. Pour salt water onto farmland, and you poison the ground. The salt draws moisture out of plant roots, crystallizes in the soil, and turns it into a hard, lifeless crust where nothing will grow for decades. Sometimes centuries. The Romans famously salted the fields of Carthage after destroying the city, specifically because they knew nothing would ever grow there again. That is how bad salt water is for land. So the idea of moving ocean water hundreds of kilometers into a desert sounds less like engineering and more like sabotage. But the engineers were not planning to pour it directly on the ground. They were planning to clean it first, and the way they figured out how to do that efficiently, at a scale nobody had managed before, is the part that actually changes everything. The physical challenges alone were enormous. Seawater is about 2.5% heavier than fresh water. That sounds like a small difference until you are pushing it through a pipe for 500 kilometers, at which point that extra weight creates massive friction against the pipe walls, builds pressure, generates heat, and corrodes metal at a rate that would destroy a conventional pipeline in years rather than decades. Salt eats steel the way rust eats through an old bicycle, except about 10 times faster and with almost no warning before catastrophic failure. Then there is a phenomenon that engineers call water hammer. Imagine you are driving a massive truck loaded with cargo at full speed down a highway and you hit the brakes instantly. Everything inside the truck crashes forward with enormous force. The same thing happens inside a pipeline when a pump suddenly stops. Billions of liters of heavy, fast-moving liquid have nowhere to go, and they slam into the nearest closed valve with force capable of splitting industrial steel pipe wide open like a tin can being crushed underfoot. So the engineers could not just build a bigger version of existing pipeline, they had to invent something new. Specialized pipe coatings that resist salt corrosion the way heat shields resist the extreme temperatures of atmospheric re-entry. Computer-controlled pump stations spaced out across hundreds of miles, coordinated to work together as one system, gently pulsing water forward in coordinated waves, rather than hammering it through all at once. Pressure sensors woven throughout the network that can detect a weakness forming in the pipe wall before it becomes a rupture.
Looking to stand out in today's job market? Up in the New Hampshire University,
They've been doing all that.
career-focused grad programs like psychology, cybersecurity, and our MBA. They'll gain the skills employers are looking for.
The pivot to a master's degree was the fact that it was online. It was at my pace.
And wherever your career takes you, your SNHU degree can help you reach your goals.
There's always somebody there who can help you. You don't have to do it alone. I really mean that too.
Visit snhu.edu today to get started.
Tailgates win championships.
We believe the most rewarding wins are when we work like a team.
New construction methods for laying pipe across terrain with no roads, no shade, no infrastructure, and temperatures that swing from blistering in the day to near freezing at night. All of that technology had to be tested somewhere before it could be trusted at full scale. And the perfect opportunity appeared from an unexpected direction. A country on the other side of the world dealing with its own version of the same crisis. Section 4. The deal that proved it could work. In 2025, China signed a $2.5 billion contract with Iraq. The goal was to build a 950-kilometer pipeline network, stretching from the Persian Gulf deep into the Iraqi desert interior. That is roughly the distance from Paris to Warsaw, covered in specialized anti-corrosion pipe, pump stations, pressure management systems, and monitoring infrastructure, all crossing some of the most unforgiving terrain on Earth. Now here is the clever part. Nobody was planning to drink this seawater, at least not in Iraq, and nobody was planning to pour it on crops. Instead, they were going to inject it underground, deep into Iraq's aging oil fields. Here is how that works. When an oil field gets old, the natural pressure underground that used to push oil up to the surface drops. The oil is still there, but it just sits. The traditional solution was to pump water underground, to push the remaining oil out from below. And for decades, Iraq was using drinking water to do this. Clean, drinkable water that could have gone to people and farms was being pumped underground just to squeeze more oil out of depleted fields. By replacing that fresh water with seawater piped in from the Persian Gulf, Iraq saves billions of cubic meters of drinkable water every single year. Water that can now go to people and cities and agriculture instead of disappearing underground into an oil reservoir. The engineering challenge to make this real was not small. The pipeline crosses regions with extreme summer heat, unpredictable sand conditions, and essentially no existing infrastructure. Pump stations had to be constructed from scratch in the middle of empty desert. The anti-corrosive materials throughout the entire system are the same grade used in the most demanding industrial environments on the planet. Sensors monitor the whole network in real time, feeding data continuously to control centers hundreds of miles away. And it is working. Right now, that pipeline is pumping. The pipes are holding. The water is moving. And every single kilometer of that system is a proof of concept. It is live evidence that a pipeline capable of moving massive volumes of corrosive ocean water across hundreds of kilometers of brutal desert terrain is not theoretical. It is real, it is scalable, and it changes the entire conversation about what is possible. Because if you can move ocean water reliably, the next question becomes obvious. What do you do with it once you get it where you need it? Section 5. Teaching the desert to grow. With the technology validated in Iraq, attention turned back to one of the most hostile places in China, a place called the Taklamakan Desert, sitting in the far northwest of the country. The name itself comes from an old Turkic language and translates, depending on who you ask, to roughly you go in, you do not come out. That should give you an idea of what the place is like. The Taklamakan covers an area roughly the size of Germany and France combined. Sand dunes inside it can reach 300 meters tall. That is taller than the Eiffel Tower, built entirely out of loose sand by the wind over centuries. For most of the 20th century, the desert was growing every year, pushing outward, consuming land at its edges, swallowing roads and towns and farms. China decided to build a green belt around the entire perimeter of the Taklamakan. Not a suggestion of trees, not a decorative border. A continuous, unbroken ring of living vegetation stretching over 3,000 kilometers, completely encircling one of the largest deserts on the planet. In November of 2024, they finished it. The water delivery system uses precision drip irrigation. Thousands of kilometers of thin tubing laid directly on the sand surface, each line engineered to carry exactly the right amount of water to the roots of each individual plant. Not a drop more than necessary. Because in a desert, wasting water is simply not an option. The plants chosen for the job are not decorative. They are built for punishment. A tree called the saxel is one of the main species used, and it is extraordinary. Its root system does not grow straight down. It spreads outward in every direction, threading through sand like a biological net, anchoring the ground. Once enough saxel trees are established in an area, the dunes stop moving. The sand gets locked in place by roots spreading beneath the surface in every direction. Once the sand locks, something else happens. Wind speeds at ground level drop because the trees disrupt airflow. Humidity near the surface increases slightly as moisture held in the roots and leaves adds to the local microclimate. The extreme temperature swings between day and night become less severe. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, The ground starts becoming capable of supporting more kinds of life. Other plants begin to establish themselves in the shelter of the trees. Animals return. Soil begins to form where before there was only sand. The water powering all of this comes from a system that combines the long-distance pipeline technology with on-site desalination. The high pressure naturally generated by pushing water over hundreds of kilometers through a pipeline can be used directly to force seawater through filtration membranes that strip out the salt. This is the same fundamental process used in desalination plants around the world, but by harvesting pressure that already exists in the pipeline, rather than generating it from scratch with additional energy, the cost drops significantly. The clean water goes into the drip lines and to the roots of the trees. The extracted salt gets collected and sold for industrial use. The whole system produces almost no waste. Satellite images taken over the last decade show something that you genuinely have to see to believe. A visible green line, growing wider and thicker and greener every year, wrapping around the edge of the yellow desert. The Taklamakan has not disappeared, but it has stopped advancing. And in this particular fight, stopping the advance is already a victory worth celebrating. This project is also just the most visible part of a much larger effort. Since 1978, China has been running something called the 3 North Shelter Belt Program, a decades-long campaign to plant trees across the dry northern regions of the country. Over 66 billion trees have been planted under this effort. Forest cover in China has grown from around 10% in 1949 to over 25% today. The green belt around the Taklamakan is the dramatic flagship achievement of this push, but it sits on top of decades of slower, quieter work that transformed the landscape piece by piece. The data coming in from the planted regions is encouraging. Local temperatures in areas with established tree cover are measurably lower during summer peaks. Dust storm frequency in downwind cities has dropped. Biodiversity indicators in green zones are improving year over year. The feedback loop that once worked in the desert's favor, where less vegetation meant more wind erosion, which meant less vegetation, has been interrupted and in some areas reversed. Section 6. This is just the beginning. Here is the thing that is easy to miss if you zoom in too close on the engineering. What has actually been built here is not just a water pipeline. It is not just a green belt. It is a toolkit, a working, proven, scalable set of technologies that, for the first time in human history, gives civilizations a genuine option when it comes to fighting a desert, rather than just retreating from it. For thousands of years, the relationship between humans and geography was one-directional. Nature put the water somewhere, and humans followed it. The Nile determined where Egyptian civilization lived. The Tigris and Euphrates determined where Mesopotamian civilization lived. Every major city in human history was built around an existing water source, because the alternative was not surviving. Geography was not just an influence on civilization. Geography was destiny. That deal is being renegotiated right now. The technologies developed and proven over the last 2 decades, the long-distance seawater pipeline, the anti-corrosion materials, the coordinated pump systems, the pressure management networks, the precision drip irrigation grids, the drought-resistant planting strategies. None of these existed at commercial scale 30 years ago. They exist now. They work at scale. They have been tested under real conditions in real deserts, and they have not failed. And China is not keeping them proprietary. Through its infrastructure investment programs, Chinese engineering firms are actively offering complete water infrastructure packages to countries across the Middle East, North Africa, and Central Asia. Countries that international organizations have flagged as potential water collapse zones within the next few decades. Countries where summer temperatures are already exceeding the threshold at which the human body cannot regulate its own heat outdoors without shade or cooling. Countries that are looking at genuinely existential water stress within the lifetimes of children who are in school today. These nations are being offered the sensors, the pipe technology, the pump stations, the plant science, and the full accumulated expertise of everything that was learned building the systems in China. And several have already said yes. The Sahara, the Arabian Peninsula, the Gobi, the Atacama. Places that have been treated as permanent, fixed features of the planet for all of recorded human history. They are not permanent. They are just expensive to change. And for most of history, the expense was impossibly high because the technology to do it did not exist. Now it does. That does not mean every project will succeed without complications. Engineering at this scale always produces surprises. The long-term ecological effects of planting trees at this density in regions that were previously barren are still being studied carefully, and some researchers have raised legitimate questions about groundwater effects and species selection. Water-sharing politics between countries that draw from the same river systems can get complicated quickly. Not every desert greening project will deliver exactly what it promises on the timeline it promises. But what has already been built, what is already delivering water to over 140 million people who would otherwise be in serious trouble, what is already running along the edge of the Taklamakan locking sand dunes in place with living roots, that is not a plan anymore. That is a track record. The rule that every civilization in human history, followed without exception, build...
Wait a minute, I'm confused. So, if that's happening for a plus, what is happening to our water over here in America? If we all on the same pipeline, and China is prospering, taking a whole desert and making it good land, good soil, why are we having, is the data centers only in America? Let me ask that question. Because I'm confused now. If we all going on this one water system, why the fuck we got wars, for one thing? But are they just fucking with our ass? So, okay, so everybody's agreeing it's going to cost money. But what's the issue with the drought? And, wait, let's see. Let's go back. Because I'm confused as fuck now. What the fuck? 10 countries with the most data centers. Okay, I'm gonna say.
Did you know a country has over 3,600 data centers powering the digital world? Let's explore the top countries with the most data centers. At number 10, Japan, with 180 centers supporting the net-driven economy. Number 9, Netherlands, running 191 centers with top-tier internet networks. At number 8, Australia, with 255 data centers across the country. Number 7, India, hosting 259 data centers as its digital economy booms. At number 6, France, also with 259 centers, mainly concentrated around Paris. Number 5, Canada, managing 263 centers, benefiting from cooler climates. At number 4, China, operating 346 centers to serve its huge online population. Number 3, United Kingdom, with 412 centers, a hub for European cloud services. Number 2, Germany, leading Europe with 419 centers and strict data laws. And number 1, United States, dominating with 3,648 data centers nationwide. Which country surprised you? Drop a comment and share your...
Okay, let's see how they doing their data centers. Okay.
Okay, I finally found...
Let's see what Japan.
Top 20 countries with the highest number of data centers.
Number 20.
I'm gonna come back to that. They put more. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Here that. Sorry, y'all. I don't have a speaker. Okay, they stated, why Japan can't build data centers fast enough? Okay.
Hello and welcome to Tech Latest from Nikkei Asia, where we bring you fresh updates from the Asian tech sector. I'm your host, Shotaro Tani, and in this week's episode, we dive into how bottlenecks are leading to slow data center construction in Japan, constraining the country's AI ambitions. With me to discuss the topic is Tsubasa Suruma, our Japan tech reporter in Tokyo. Tsubasa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, nice to be back.
So you've written a piece about the data center constraints. Delivery of data centers are slowing across the globe. I think around the world it's mostly to do with electricity grid constraints. But can you just explain how the reasons for Japan's delay is different from that?
Yeah, of course. So in many markets globally, the main bottleneck often comes down to, as you said, power grid constraints and permitting delays or supply chain issues for critical equipment. But in Japan, Japan's facing a particularly acute mix of constraints in the construction industry on top of those common issues. And specifically, the labor shortages and the slow adoption of modern construction practices like widespread use of digital design tools are making a huge difference here. And these are deep structural constraints, and they don't just delay permits or equipment delivery, they slow down every step from design to the final build, which is why even with land and power secured, the actual facility delivery is dragging. And for the big tech companies that often that offer cloud services on a large scale, so-called hyperscalers, that's a serious problem. They rely on fast deployment cycles, especially for AI data centers, which require the latest cooling systems and other infrastructure that support the rapidly evolving NVIDIA GPUs, for example. And one of the people I spoke to in this article said, if you cannot confirm that you have a data center to host the GPUs, NVIDIA will basically not ship them. And everyone at the moment is struggling to find where they can actually be used.
Gotcha. Let's unpack that a little bit. What's the situation on the ground, actually? I think you mentioned how contractors are fully booked until certain years, and how long are the actual delays? What's the situation?
Yeah, so the situation is quite stark. a lot of the major general contractors in Japan have told their clients that they're basically locked in with projects until 2028.
Oh, smart Japan!
Even subcontractors, for example,
So y'all know
those
it's a
handling
problem.
electrical, mechanical, plumbing work, for example, in some cases have no availability until 2029 or even later. So what this means is that if an investor buys land today, by the time they can secure builder and all the necessary approvals, actual construction may not even start for years. And this is leading to delays for multiple years compared with what was common before, where it was about 2 years. Some people say it's taking them more than 3 years in some cases. So it's quite a serious problem.
And are the problems that the global data center constructors and hyperscalers face that you mentioned, the power grid constraints and the supply chain, does that apply to Japan as well, or is this a problem that Japan doesn't struggle with, but the bottlenecks are just different?
It's a common challenge, so it's definitely a concern globally, and they do matter in Japan as well. Many projects
Japan
need
put their ass on
stable,
hold.
high-capacity power
We find out more
and
about
advanced
you.
cooling. But from
Smart.
what data center developers told me on the ground, the more immediate bottlenecks is actually the construction capacity itself. So even if the power can theoretically be supplied, getting a facility built and certified in time becomes the real challenge. But that said, data centers do require a very large amount of electricity, and that's something that Japan must be tackling in the longer term.
Right, so Japan's tackled with all the constraints that, global data center constructors and hyperscalers face, and on top of that, Japan has its own problems.
That's right, yeah.
And I think that all that's kind of led to Japan becoming the most costly country to build data centers, right?
Yeah, that's right. I was actually surprised to see the data myself. I recently came back from Singapore, where I used to interview a lot of data center developers, and they all mentioned the high cost in Singapore, but now as I returned here, now I'm hearing that and finding out that Tokyo and now Seoul, Osaka is becoming one of the most expensive places to build data centers globally.
But you mentioned in your piece as well, despite bottlenecks, a lot of companies, global companies.
Okay, so Japan's smart as fuck. Oh, okay. They already know the deal. Damn, I gotta rewrite that. Fuck. I'm gonna put the last thing. Put that last next time. Sorry, y'all gotta rewrite it. Okay. That still is. Work. That's how they're doing in China. Why China's taking these data centers underwater? How China built the world's largest AI mega data center. Okay, let's see.
is for the driven, for those ready to do the thing. Enroll for fall at lonestar.edu/do-the-thing.
China is working on an ambitious plan to literally store the internet under the waves. China has launched what might be the world's first underwater data center. Hidden under the waves, cooled by the sea, and churning through the digital backbone of tomorrow. The concept is bold, but not entirely new. Why underwater? Well, underwater or submerged data centers have been theorized for years because the ocean offers natural cooling and stable environmental conditions. But execution has always been risky. China's version is not a toy project. It's designed for serious scale with energy-efficient servers and marine-grade infrastructure. The site is off the Shanghai coastline inside a coastal area where ocean temperatures are manageable. The salty water cools the servers, reducing or eliminating the need for energy-hungry air conditioning or massive HVAC systems. But an underwater data center must survive harsh conditions. Corrosion, pressure, humidity, marine life, all of these fight against delicate electronics. So components must be sealed, ruggedized, and built for long-term immersion. China's engineers say that they have developed special enclosures and cooling systems that let servers run submerged without needing air ventilation. The design preserves performance while protecting hardware. The timing makes sense. Power is expensive. Land-based data centers are bottlenecked by cooling, land costs, and regulatory hurdles. To scale further, new frontiers are needed. Think about it. Your photos, your chat logs, your streaming data, flowing in a box under the waves of Shanghai. It's immersive in more ways than one. So what could go wrong? Quite a lot if engineers are not precise. Powering the facility requires submarine cables, redundant lines, fail-safes, and any cable cut or malfunction could mean sudden downtime. This means maintenance becomes harder. To repair or upgrade, you must either raise the modules to the surface where cooling is lost or send down specialized diving systems. Marine conditions shift. Water salinity, waves, storms, biofouling, these can damage enclosures over time. The protective outer shell must be robust enough to last years under stress. So why now? Well, for countries with expensive real estate or limited grid infrastructure, underwater centers offer a compelling option. The challenge will be replicating the tech with reliability. Already cloud giants have tested submerged modules. Microsoft deployed an experimental underwater data center in Scotland years ago to test the idea. But these were short-term experiments, not full-scale production units. And why does this matter? Well, if the China model succeeds, this could open a new chapter in computing infrastructure where data flows in pipes beneath the ocean and our digital infrastructure literally lives under the waves. So next time your video buffers, imagine it traveled under the sea through a data center nestled in pressure and salt, humming away quietly, cooling itself, and sending your bits faster than any land-based network might. We will keep tracking the story. Stay tuned.
Okay, so they smart as fuck. America, what the fuck? Okay, let's see who else on the list. Everybody, I got a perfect solution where they trying other solutions besides putting it on land and making high light bills and taking everybody's water. Okay, let's see what Germany is doing.
Hello there. We've been regularly... Hello there. We've been regularly telling you about digitalization and artificial intelligence in Germany for some time now. But developments are happening so fast, it's hard to keep up with them. For instance, I'm talking to you now. Or am I? AI has gotten so good at cloning individual voices that it's nearly impossible to tell the copy from the real thing. But to pull off this and other feats of cyber magic, You need massive data capacity. That's why new data centers are springing up all over Germany. Let's have a look. In June 2024, Amazon announced it was putting a further 10 billion euros into its German operations. Its total investment in Europe's biggest economy has been around 77 billion euros since 2010. Amazon knows better than anyone how big the potential here is because it's done the research. According to a recent study by Amazon Web Services, AWS, and Strand Partners, AI could add an additional 116 billion euros to the German economy by 2030.
We think that artificial intelligence will play a major role for the German economy, and we think that any business, no matter which industry you're in, will be affected by AI. We've recently commissioned a study that showed that 48% of German enterprises have already adopted AI in one form or another, and we have many more companies working on this technology in a pilot phase.
Amazon has research and development centers in Berlin, Tübingen, and Aachen.
We've recently announced that we're also building the first region of the AWS European Sovereign Cloud in Germany as well, in the state of Brandenburg. That's yet another 7.8 billion euro investment over the coming years.
This is essentially a vast data processing hub. It's designed to help customers from the public sector and in highly regulated industries, for example critical infrastructure operators, meet specific legal requirements regarding the location of data processing and digital operations.
In October 2024, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary for the AWS region in Frankfurt. And we're not only celebrating our own success, but also all the things that our customers have managed to build, to develop, and to innovate on this infrastructure.
Amazon is far from the only tech giant to have seen Germany's potential in the AI sector. In February 2024, Microsoft announced its biggest ever investment in the country with 3.2 billion euros for Germany's AI infrastructure. The investment is destined for the regions of North Rhine-Westphalia and Frankfurt, the latter being the largest and most important German region for Microsoft's Azure project.
The investments from these giants are extremely important for the data center market and the digital infrastructure in Germany. They often attract further investments from other sectors and promote the expansion of fiber optics, heat networks or substations. This creates many well-paid jobs in the future-proof sector and brings economical growth to the regions. In the past, large cloud providers rented space in existing data centers. Now we see new strategies. They want to build their own data centers. One reason for this is certainly the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, but also the topic of data sovereignty. With data centers in Germany, they can guarantee that sensitive data stays secure within the country.
The German Data Center Association predicts that data capacity in Germany will increase from 1.3 to 3.3 gigawatts
We want to make our own. I don't feel so shy.
It expects companies to invest more than 24 billion euros in the construction and expansion of data centers during this period. Those companies include not only the US giants, but firms from the UK and the Netherlands as well. Due to its central location and its major internet hub, Frankfurt am Main and the surrounding area is a focal point. Frankfurt is home to the Deutsche Commercial Internet Exchange, or DKIX. It's an operator of carrier and data center neutral internet exchanges serving Europe, North America, Africa, the Middle East, India, and Southeast Asia. DKIX is one of the largest internet exchange points in the world. Metropolitan Berlin is also popular. Data center capacity there, for instance, is expected to expand nearly fourfold in the coming years. And the region between Cologne and Aachen is becoming increasingly important. These coal-producing areas are undergoing restructuring as Germany phases out coal. Their electricity grid makes them well suited to hosting data centers.
Regions like the Rhinisches Revier, which is transforming from a coal region into a center of AI development, or the area around Berlin, are growing rapidly in the data center sector. This creates new digital hubs in the country.
It's impossible to list all the business opportunities that will be created by the expanding data capacity, but one you might not immediately think of is in climate action. Data centers generate lots of waste.
American and
from
Bangladesh.
July 2026 onwards, they'll have to productively use 10% of it. That figure will increase in the years to follow. Many German cities are looking into how to convert waste heat into district heating. In any case, the next generation of data centers will be more ecological than previous ones.
More data centers consume more energy and generate more waste heat. That's why the industry places great emphasis on renewable energy and energy efficiency. Almost 70% of co-location data centers in Germany have power purchase agreements for green electricity. This way, the industry is actively contributing to the energy transition of the country. Another important issue is the use of waste heat. This is often made available, but in many places there's a still lack of recipients. However, municipalities are becoming increasingly open to joint projects for heat planning as outlined in the Heat Planning Act.
So you see, Germany is not only Europe's industrial heartland and biggest market, it's on its way to becoming the continent's sustainable data hub. Could your business profit from Germany's growing capacity for information processing by expanding?
Smart as fuck. All these smart. America just jumped off into the shit. That's a Gemini energy. I'm sorry, Geminis. Consequences later, like Aries. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see who else doing something. Oh my goodness. These people smart as fuck. They like, oh, we're gonna make a profit off of this. We're gonna make our own. We're gonna get you to show us how to do this shit. And better our infrastructure, because we already got the shit. So y'all not just gonna introduce some shit. We gotta look at all the factors and, you know, our environment and climate. Smart as fuck. And America just, man, that dollar in America, you can buy a nigga for 15 cents. And I'm calling all of them niggas. Bite me. No consequences of the actions after you do some shit. Crazy. You gotta think about that shit. What's gonna happen if I do this long term? You think for now, you don't think for tomorrow and the next day and the next day and your grandkids and so on and so forth. Not saying they smart as they done made mistakes like that too. We all make them. But certain things you just don't do. For no money for now.
Where collarbones crack, where hips break, where ACLs tear, where pain starts, genetics.
That's the fuck. I was trying to see was anything down here that was talking about it. Okay. Okay, okay, it is way away from everybody. So y'all gonna talk or y'all just gonna show us shit? guess they say none of y'all there. It's on the land, but okay, we would like to know a little more information, Netherlands. So y'all secretive? I don't know if Amsterdam and Netherlands, I have no idea. Let's just look at it. They not telling. Oh, that is Netherlands. Okay, okay. So I guess they're waiting on Germany or going on Germany rules, or I guess because they're in control of the UK over there. Is that the deal? Yes. I bet they be laughing at our ass over here. Yeah, they ain't. Okay, so they going along with Germany. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. New data centers project, blah, blah, blah. So it's in the works. Or whatever. I guess. They ain't talking. What they say?
If Texas was a truck, we'd be a Ram truck. Because out here, close to home's long.
They got them. Okay, they not talking. Gotcha. Okay, let's see. So, everything UK, I guess, is with Germany. Let's see. Austria. Let's try Austria. Man, y'all smart. ST Barbara. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay.
From energy market operator AEMO, an annual assessment of where electricity demand and supply is heading. The new report has both worrying and promising numbers, with one undeniable feature. The AI revolution will be bigger sooner than the authority had expected. Data centres. They're already power hungry. Australia has 165, using 3% of our electricity. That, according to AEMO, will surge to 13% across the next decade as scores more come online.
We're requiring new data centres to bring their own new renewable energy backed by gas firming. That's a sensible, common sense approach.
That plan to go to a meeting of the Prime Minister and Premiers tomorrow lacks support from Queensland and the Northern Territory. Minister Bowen says Canberra will force the data centre plan into law with federal legislation.
We're not going to let Queensland run a race to the bottom. Queensland doesn't get to set the policies for the rest of Australia, with all due respect.
AEMO also reports electricity reliability has improved, but warns New South Wales and Victoria are currently on track to breach reliability standards in 5 years. This as the opposition leader worries about a different track, falling from his bicycle as he competes in this year's polypedal, but telling Sunrise he's okay. So its leader bruised, but opposition energy spokesman Dan Tehan says the coalition will try to work with the government on data centre policy. From energy market operator AEMO, an annual assessment of where electricity demand and supply is heading. The new report has both worrying and promising numbers, with one undeniable feature. The AI revolution will be bigger.
Okay, so they have some issues. Okay. debate.
AI has already taken over many parts of our lives, and now a new data center could. Go up in a residential area. It'll be located in Macquarie Park on land previously earmarked for much needed housing. New South Wales property editor Angelique Opie reports.
For technology and innovation in Sydney, Macquarie Park has quickly become a hub for digital infrastructure. One site, though, on Talavera Road, was earmarked to be turned into 1,500 apartments. Instead, it will be another data centre.
Because of the complexity of our planning system, it's not unusual for sites like this to become more viable as an industrial development rather than housing.
We've never used more generative AI than in the past year, so the demand for centres that can support the technology has surged. Already across Sydney, there are nearly 100 data centres and more are coming.
We also have a lot of industrial lands that are well resourced with energy and water supply, which data centres need to operate. And we have a stable regulatory environment. So all these factors make Sydney a particularly lucrative place for data centre developers at the moment.
Last month, Amazon announced a $20 billion infrastructure investment into expanding sites in Sydney and Melbourne.
This is the largest investment ever announced by a global technology provider in Australia.
They need significant amounts of electricity and water to function. The concern is in just 5 years, they could consume as much as 8% of the country's energy grid.
Okay. So, let's see. What are the problems? Anybody want to say problems? Was in Sydney. Or everybody just looking at money like America. Data centers could
With the AI boom in full swing,
okay, let's see.
With the AI boom in full swing, tens of billions of dollars are flowing in from big tech companies to build data centres. Across Australia, there's a surge of proposals to build these power-hungry centres. A new analysis commissioned by Greenpeace is sounding the alarm about the size and speed of the energy demands of this AI boom and whether it could delay the country's transition to renewables. Well, Cam Wilson is the ABC's national AI technology reporter. He joins us now from Sydney. Cam, what does this report say about how much electricity these data centres are set to consume and why?
Yeah, good morning. It is a really big number of energy that is expected to consume in this report. This Greenpeace report actually pulls from pretty official government data about their projections about how much new energy will be needed over the next 15 years to power the data centres. Data centres, of course, have been around for quite a long time. You know, we've used them for many tech services, but this recent generative AI boom, which has been kicked off by ChatGPT at the end of 2022, is really a lot more energy demanding, and so as a result, to power these products that are being used by tens of millions of Australians, we're seeing this demand for data centres to service that processing and computing power. So the projection is in the kind of highest growth scenario, according to this data, is 13% of Australia's total energy consumption by 2040 could be just going to data centres. For context, that is about 2% now, or at least in 2024-25, so a massive increase. And what's more, the fact that it is a large amount has also really come out of nowhere. We saw projections change in just 1 year to increase 6 times. So really, you know, for energy grids and the providers who work on quite long, time frames, this is an immediate stress to them now, and they really have to figure out about how to handle this new demand.
Yes, so Cam, these concerns are coming from Greenpeace. Now, this is an environmental activist group, likely has little love for these big tech companies. But what are other experts and also energy providers saying about this? Are they also concerned?
Yeah, look, these this analysis was pulled together by Greenpeace, but it was off very official data from the energy market operator. And what Greenpeace added was it was saying, hey, we're putting this together, and we can actually point out that the new electricity needed for data centers could be more than what we needed to electrify our homes and cars over the next period. And now, while they kind of pulled that kind of analysis and comparison together, they are not alone in making these projections. I spoke to the group representing the data center providers in Australia, who you can imagine would be probably a little bit, more conservative about that. And they said, while we actually can't, projections out past 2030 are really kind of hard to know and depends on government policy, they didn't really dispel it out of hand. And they said, our projections align with those official projections that undergird the Greenpeace ones up until 2030. So, pretty much everyone is agreeing that there is this huge demand that is coming out now. And the question is, how do we actually service that? Because, the fact that there is so much new energy demand means that as we transition to renewable energies, some of the power plants that were expected to go offline because of this new demand, or energy provision from renewables, all of a sudden will have to hang around because there's a lot more energy needed than they had originally projected.
And are companies like Microsoft or Amazon required to bolster this infrastructure required for these sectors?
Yeah, so at the moment, it is not specifically required. Many of these big tech companies have started to sign MOUs with the government saying that we plan to do this. The federal government a few months ago released some non-binding expectations for data center providers saying, hey, there's a few things that we think that you need to do. One of those was saying you need to bring enough renewable energy to cover what you're going to take up with these data centers. They're non-binding, but the government was saying we're not going to support any projects that don't abide by that. But recently we've seen moves from an agreement between the state and federal energy ministers saying that let's take these non-binding guidelines and expectations and codify them, make them actual requirements. So very clearly there is a push to say to handle this long-term demand right now with these with these data center providers coming in, building for these big tech companies. You guys need to pay the way, support this kind of stuff, and we need to take this seriously, not just leave it up to hopes and wishes.
Yeah, future. Okay, I got you. Okay, so there's a debate going. Busy demands, blah blah blah. Okay, Australia. Who else we got next? India. Let's see what India doing. Clearly, they noticing some stuff.
What is a data center?
A few days ago, India's Commerce Minister, y'all kind of like a little greedy.
With Rula, it takes 5 minutes to find the right therapist for you.
Y'all, that's just listen.
Why are you hunting the same land as everyone else? There's more out there. You just can't see where it starts.
A few days ago, India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said that India is becoming a preferred destination for data centers.
The surge of power which data centers cause can best be handled by a country like India because of our massive grid. So we are a preferred destination for data centers.
Now, from a distance, it sounds like the kind of optimistic government statements we hear all the time. But when you zoom out and look at what's actually happening, this is a once-in-a-decade kind of structural shift happening. Similar to how we exploited the IT boom in the 90s and early 2000s, this is the same moment for AI. And global companies have already invested over $40 billion in India to make that happen. Welcome to our weekly Indian Startup News show. I'm Pankaj, your host, and you're watching Backstage in Millennials, a channel that's also part of Zero's Zero One Network.
not funny. So they're like, what?
And in today's
Shit,
video,
y'all
we'll be
stand there
answering a
like
very
being
simple
shit.
but important question. Why is everyone
Some little
suddenly
water.
building data centers in India? And why is this
This ain't
actually
nothing new,
good
love.
for the country? See, right now India generates close to 20% of the world's data. So basically every UPI
Oh, really?
transaction, every video stream, every Aadhaar authentication, and every AI prompt, it all adds up to it. But here is the strange part. Despite producing so much data, India today hosts only about 3% of the world's data center capacity. So we produce 20% of the world's data, but we store only 3% of it. And a useful way to think about this is through an old analogy. For decades, India exported raw materials and imported finished goods. For example, iron ore would leave the country and steel would come back. Similarly, cotton would leave and textiles would return. The real value was mostly added elsewhere. And until now, the same thing was happening with data. India produced the raw data, things like user behavior, transaction, and all the content. But a lot of the processing, storage, and monetization, it all happened overseas. And data centers changed that equation. They let India process, store, and monetize data at home. And that's why global tech companies are suddenly lining up. Not because India is cheap, but because India is becoming unavoidable. And there are three big forces driving this shift. The first is sheer demand. India is the world's largest and most active market when it comes to AI adoption. We lead in the usage of all the AI apps in the market right now, both in terms of monthly active users and daily active users. And since data centers are the factories of the AI economy, we need them to be closer to us. The second force is government regulation. India's push for data localization did not happen overnight. It began around 2019 and was
So y'all
cemented
got
with the
playing
Digital
undercover
Personal
playing
Data
the
Protection Act of 2023. And the message here is
So y'all
simple.
sneaky.
Certain kinds of data must be stored and processed within the country. And this instantly makes domestic data center capacity not just useful, but essential. The third force is changing geopolitics. See, after COVID and the global supply chain shocks, companies are rethinking the concentration risk. Basically, relying on a handful of regions for all the cloud and AI infrastructure is very risky. And in this context, India offers scale, political stability, and a rapidly improving digital backbone. And from an infrastructure perspective, it's a rare market
Put
that
y'all on
checks
the map,
many
better,
boxes
right?
at once. Now, with that being said, there are some obvious concerns that many people are talking about. And that's the issue of high electricity and water usage,
Yeah.
something that India is already very short of. Globally, data centers consume about 415 terawatt hours of electricity in 2024. And by 2030, that number is expected to more than double, largely driven by AI workloads. In India specifically, electricity used by data centers is expected to rise from under 1% of national consumption to around 3% over the next few years. Then water is another pressure point. India is among the most water-stressed countries in the world. But despite these concerns, having a large number of data centers is actually net positive for the country. And let me tell you why. Firstly, because when these big tech companies set up their data centers here, it will force the government for massive infra upgrade. Simply because these data centers require reliable round-the-clock electricity. And that will push the states to invest in grid stability, renewable capacity, and transmission infrastructure. Also, many of these data centers projects are explicitly tied to solar, wind, and energy storage investments. In other words, data centers will directly or indirectly make many clean energy projects economically viable. In fact, India's total electricity capacity recently crossed over 500 gigawatt, and more than 50% of this capacity is actually coming from renewable sources. The same is true for water. Modern data centers increasingly use closed-loop cooling systems, recycled water, and air-cooled designs. And these technologies don't get adopted at scale unless there is a pressure to do so. And data centers will create that pressure. And finally, data centers will create an ecosystem of new jobs in the country. Network engineers, cybersecurity professionals, cloud architects, system administrators, hardware maintenance, power management.
I see
green
them
technology,
names.
and
Get
these
in
are
college.
long-term,
Y'all can go over there
high-skilled
now.
jobs which will be relevant for many years. And finally, there is also a strategic angle to it. If India wants to play a serious role in the global AI economy, it cannot just be a talent supplier. It needs domestic compute. Basically, you cannot train sovereign AI models, run large-scale public digital infrastructure,
Let me go back.
or host global cloud workloads if your data lives somewhere else.
Let me see, what's those names again?
Which will be relevant for many years. And finally, there is also a strategic angle to it. If India wants to play a serious role in the global AI economy, it cannot just be a talent supplier. It needs domestic compute. Basically, you cannot train sovereign AI models, run large-scale public digital infrastructure, or host global cloud workloads if your data lives somewhere else. These data centers will immensely help India in its trillion-dollar digital economy. And both the government and a big company.
So y'all gonna let it go by, okay. Yeah, I know the risk.
500 gigawatt, and more than
Let me see the
50% of
jobs
this
right
capacity is actually coming from renewable sources. The same is true for water. Modern data centers increasingly use closed-loop cooling systems, recycled water, and air-cooled designs. And these technologies don't get adopted at scale unless there is a pressure to do so. And data centers will create that pressure. And finally, data centers will create an ecosystem of new jobs in the country. Network engineers, cybersecurity
network engineers, cyber security professionals, who else?
Professionals, cloud architect.
Cloud architect. System administrators, okay. Hardware maintenance. Okay.
Maintenance, power management.
Power management.
Cooling technology.
Cooling technologies. Okay.
And these are long-term, high-skilled jobs which will be relevant for many years. And finally, there is also a strategic angle. If India wants to play a serious role in the global AI economy, it cannot just be a talent supplier. It needs domestic compute. Basically, it cannot train sovereign AI models, run large-scale public digital infrastructure, or host global cloud workloads if your data lives somewhere else. These data centers will immensely help India in its trillion dollar digital economy. And both the government and our big companies understand this, which is why we are seeing massive investments happening in this sector. Sure, there will be challenges of power, water, government support, but that should not stop us from being a part of the most important tech revolution of today's time. Alright, next up, India just unveiled the 64, the country's first fully indigenous 64-bit microprocessor. And it's a big statement that India wants to build its own technological foundation.
Work on the
instead of depending on
motherboard.
foreign
I got
processors
cheated.
for everything from critical infrastructure to everyday devices. So what exactly is the Rua 64? It is a 1.0 gigahertz dual-core 64-bit processor designed and developed entirely in India. And this is done by the Center of Development for Advanced Computing under the National Microprocessor Development Program. In simple terms,
okay, so y'all going with it. Okay, I got you. Let me see anybody complaining. They not gonna complain. But y'all did get $40 billion. America got some money, but we ain't getting shit. The people. That was wrong about the AI data centers, water.
Akina is AI. This is a comment I've had to see more.
Blah blah. Anybody worry about what's coming out? Data centers could be in this next $1 trillion business. That's what he was saying. So y'all money marketing, okay, to be $1 trillion. So y'all don't mind a little fucked up shit. Y'all think of future goals. Okay. 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 I got you. Okay. Do a couple more. France. Uh-oh. Building a French data center. Okay.
Hi everybody, welcome to this DC and Paris studio interview. I'm Sebastian Moss, editor at DCD, publisher Infrared, DCN, DCD, XDX, Yotta, Accelerated Compute. All together to talk to you, Arnaud de Birmingham, CEO of Ocpor. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm fine, I'm great.
How close was I getting the name correct?
It's perfect. It's hard to say, so really, congrats.
So for the uninitiated, Ocpor, what do you guys do?
So yeah, we are a long-established data center operator in France. So we operate data centers since 20 years, something like this.
Oh, really?
So it's a long story made of a lot of development in France. So actually we have 6 data centers around Paris, we have 1 data center in Lyon, and 1 data center in Marseille, and also we have 6 data centers in Poland. So we are not only in France, we are pure European player, and we are in France and in Poland right now.
And so if we look at France, we've had a lot of people on stage, a lot of people on here who are building in France, but they're not French companies. Or they have...
We have the only one.
Yeah, 50% owned by Iliad.
Yes, so Opera is owned at 50% by Iliad, which is well-known telecom operator in France, and 50% by Infraber, which is an infrastructure investment fund based in France. So 100% of our share are French. So yeah, we are proud because we are 100% French in France, and we have the fuel to invest in France and in Europe to build new data centers to big capacity. So yeah.
So based on French owned, there's a national pride element, but is there a genuine business advantage? Do you get contracts? Do you, as we look at what's happening in the US, is there more investment in, hey, let's have everything here?
Yeah, more, geopolitical context change a lot of things. Before, sovereignty was just policy, and right now it's real business, because everybody is looking for sovereignty. All big players, they want to work with local players who know regulation, who are able to have grid connection, who are able to scale. This is super important. So, yeah, the ecosystem changed a lot in the last 2 years, and there is real opportunity for data center operators like us.
And like you said, you've been around a long while. On one hand, that's great. You've got
so they got the ideas from y'all?
The users, you've got history and knowledge, but on the other hand, we're at this inflection point where it's these high-density GPU things where old assets aren't necessarily that useful. So how do you deal with that?
The data center business didn't change the last 20 years. 20 years ago, was building data center at 1 or 2 kilowatts per square meter. It's, a few years ago, it was exactly the same. So we didn't have any huge innovation in data center business the last 20 years. So yeah, we welcome innovation in our business. That's great, and it's good for.
Well, why you don't give your people no air conditioning then?
It's harder for new players, for sure, but for well-established.
I did not know y'all didn't have air conditioning.
Yeah, it's new, but we are comfortable to manage the new expectation from our clients, and we are comfortable to answer to this need by technical answer and by innovation. So it's good for data center, it's good for the business. The new requests, the new density, the new type of architecture, especially for cooling, it's a very good news for the business and for the data center market.
Okay.
Finally, we innovate, Not a lot of things change. We build data center like we did 20 years ago.
Honestly, it makes my job more interesting now that it's changes.
So finally,
are you, on that change, you going, hey, everything from before this point, those are old, we're just doing old non-AI workloads, are you retrofitting? You kicking customers out for a bit, building everything out?
To be honest, it's nearly impossible to retrofit existing data center for AI. Everything is in France. So I think the market will have 2 big sub-markets. One sub-market for big colo, for wholesale, for compute. And one another new market for AI, which is super fun because actually more and more customers are talking about 200 kilowatt per watt, So the architecture you need to deliver such capacity is completely different. So I don't believe that we will be able to switch existing data center for AI, but I do believe that we will have 2 sub-markets, and we still have growth on, of course, on the traditional compute market, but we have a new growth, a new market.
They kind of convince you to make it
we can answer to this easily because we have clean power, we have a low carbon energy, we have energy. And actually, the war on data center for AI is access to energy.
Although in Poland it's
Sorry?
In Poland it is tougher.
No, in Poland we don't see the AI market right now in Poland because the carbon footprint of power in Poland is super high and it's a major blocker for the Polish market. So maybe we see demand later, but right now we don't see any AI demand in Poland. It's mostly compute. It's a compute market.
So within AI, which part of that is optical targeting? How big will you scale with the clients?
So we target two types of clients. We target the compute client. Of course, this is the core business. And we also target the AI client. And for the AI client, we have two huge projects actually under construction, which is Montreal, which is a partnership with ETF. And we have DC6 projects will be delivered mid next year. So this is a short-term capacity we have for all the AI market. And we still work with our clients to be the perfect data center for their needs.
Perfect. Well, perfect way to end. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Well,
See you soon.
Okay, so they got their own shit. They ain't tripping. They been had their own shit. That's where they got the idea probably. Spain. Did I be Spain already?
Some pandemonium into your practice.
So if you guys didn't know, I love gaming. Next person.
Secured like military installations, these enormous depots are multiplying across Spain. Data centers store your mails, photos, and any videos you send, even your online conversations. Exceptionally, we've been able to go inside one of them in Madrid.
Pass your card first.
Director Francisco Ramirez shows us round.
We're going to go into a room with servers, that's why there are tighter security measures. You have to identify yourself twice, once with the card and then with your fingerprint.
The director didn't want to give details about the company's clients. He says business is going well. 4 new data centers are being built near Madrid.
When people talk about the cloud, that's not an abstract thing. It's a site like this one where racks of real servers store the digital world. For example, when you send a WhatsApp photo, it goes through a data center like this, then it's distributed through underground cables connecting the center with the outside.
In 4 years, the capacity of data centers in Spain is going to double. A lucrative market growing exponentially and in the hands of a few multinationals. Like Meta, the owner of Facebook and WhatsApp.
It's here.
A few hundred kilometers from Madrid, this is where the company is going to build its biggest data center in Europe, stretching over 190 hectares.
It's going to be here.
Across this whole field.
They should have already started with the construction of the building.
2 years ago, Aurora and Fanta set up a group to stop the multiplication of data centers in the country.
Aquí no se va a ver nada.
Here there will be an enormous storage building that's going to ring the view.
Todo el paisaje y todo el horizonte.
These warehouses will house thousands of servers functioning round the clock. To acquire this land, Meta paid 20 million euros to the town hall, a very good deal for the US firm, says Aurora.
La Their first choice was the Netherlands. They wanted to build their data center over there, but the local authorities refused permission because they had already suffered an environmental impact from data centers.
That impact included heavy water use. To cool down the servers, Meta plans to use more than 500 million litres a year of drinking water so that electronic components aren't damaged.
Here we're standing on the banks of the Tagus River. One of its tributaries is going to provide the water that the data center is going to use.
She finds that absurd in one of the most arid regions of Spain.
Just after the Meta project got approval, the region's farmers needed financial help because they had lost everything from drought.
200 kilometers upstream, Angel is one of them. The 72-year-old farmer struggles more each year to grow his crops.
This is a field of cereals, 3 hectares of wheat. It's just rained. But for the last 3 years, drought has become more and more of a problem.
His crops depend solely on rainwater.
In total, I've lost 153,800 euros. That's an enormous sum. It's not that I'm not earning anything, it's that I'm losing money because we're getting into debt. And farmers like me that don't have irrigation systems are not going to be able to make a living from our job.
Angel has become active in the country's main agricultural union to try to save the region's producers.
My friends.
3 years ago, the farmers asked the authorities to create a water reservoir to irrigate 2,800 hectares.
They told me that's not in the region's plans or in the country's plans. Are you saying what we
Okay, so they have an issue. Let's see something else. I want to see, let's go to how rain is made.
To keep your thing being a thing, you need internet things so people follow your thing. And on Canva, you can make all sorts of things that all the people who follow your thing can enjoy.
I gotta send this.
Let's look at the science of rain and how raindrops form. First, we'll need the sun. When the sun shines on water on the Earth's surface, the heat of the sun warms the water, turning it into an invisible gas called water vapor. This process, the changing of water into a gas, is called evaporation. Because gases are lighter than liquids, water vapor rises up into the sky. And the further you move up and away from the Earth's surface, the colder the temperature gets. So in the sky, the water vapor cools and changes back into tiny water droplets. This change is called condensation and is the opposite of evaporation. Clouds are made up of tiny water droplets, so when condensation occurs in the sky, clouds form and grow. Let's take a closer look. When water droplets bump into one another, they stick together and grow in size. They continue to grow until they're too heavy and fall as rain. They even grow as they bump into one another on the journey from the cloud to the ground. And every single raindrop that reaches the ground is made up of 1 million of the original tiny water droplets. Raindrops fall on the ground surface where the sun can shine on them, and the whole process happens again. This is called the water cycle and keeps water moving from the ground to the sky, providing the water needed for plants, animals, and people to survive. So now you know.
Okay. So, the less water, no rain. So the data centers could hurt that while they're thinking about the money issue, right? Could be detrimental to Mother Nature and us. Okay, so that was our lesson for today. Yeah, that's why, that's a problem. Okay, Mercury in Scorpio. And I want to read a little bit. And then I start, okay? So, let's see. I know I've been getting water all while I was doing my readings. Less water, something wrong with the water, blah, 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 blah. Then I find it's the data centers on top of all kind of other shit. October 24th through November 13th will be the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. Shadow begins October 4th. Post-retrograde shadow ends November 29th. What to expect? Core themes: deep emotional reflection, uncovering hidden truths, navigating shared finances, and managing internal relationship dynamics. General advice: double-check communications, back up digital files, and avoid rushing into major commitments during this window. Influence communications, travel, tech, and even everyday decision making. Confusion, delays, and disruptions in communication, travel, and decision making. Undelivered love letters, email blunders, fraggled travel plans, and the classic, did I really just send that memo? Also a valuable time for reflection. Intuition heightened, and that seemingly odd coincidence might carry meaning because Mercury orbits the sun faster than Earth does. There are moments when it appears to slow down, stop, and reverse direction, like a car passing another on the highway. This is why it's called the phenomenon of apparent retrograde motion, as it only looks like the planet is moving backwards. The planet Mercury rules communication in all forms: listening, writing, reading, speaking, and so on. Activities closely related to communication, like negotiations and contracts. Also rules travel, automobiles, shipping, and mail. So during this time, those areas will feel off. This doesn't mean disaster guarantee, but it's wise to proceed with extra care. Avoid signing major contracts or making big purchases. Double check emails, messages, and travel plans. Back up your data and devices. Be patient, especially with miscommunication. Revisit old projects instead of starting new ones. Flexibility is your friend. You can't stop your life, but plan ahead. Have backup plans and be prepared for people's. What is this? Oh, they're going on fuses, shatter fuses, and miscommunication. Some blame all chaos on retrograde in lives. Sit back and review what you put your energy towards. Are you focusing your energy where it matters most? If family and fault are important to you, are you putting enough energy there? Or Have you overextended in certain areas like career or obligation at the expense of relationship or well-being? Losing balance, difficult parts of your life can cause them to suffer. Be aware of your communication. Can help you maintain or at least better understand how that balances work. Also, a time to step back, re-evaluate, realize who you are and what you are doing, but do refrain from making any drastic changes within after or till after this ends. End of its shadow period. All things to resolve by not misunderstanding misunderstandings. Prepare to move forward. Clear intention. Okay, Scorpio. Asks you to look inward, rethink personal values, and release outdated self images, self worth, and identity. Your stories around money, personal value, and who you are begin to shift. Intense reflection. You may overanalyze mixed signals or suspect hidden motives where there are none. Deep transformation. This person acts as a personal truth serum, pushing you to confront emotional baggage and unspoken fears. Tips to core. Avoid over suspicion. Remember that not every unclear word or delayed text hides a dark secret. Take a deep breath before reacting. Some just retrograde. Question. Review finances. Use the time to audit shared accounts or existing budgets instead of launching new financial ventures. Let go. Release old definitions of success and outdated personal dynamics that no longer fit who you are. For one thing, that data center ain't going nowhere. So we got to figure that out. Okay. Alrighty, let's see. Let me put my lamp on here. It's just like computer things, right? Everybody wants the internet, and they claim that we need the data centers. So what are we gonna do? It's big money in it, big corporations. Like Paris been had their own, right? So I think they're trying to convince them to make it fresher or newer, something like that. So let's see, what's up, what's going on? Personal or what we talking about? Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces, also water. He got the water, the marine life, see all them dolphins or whatever jumping up and down, a fish. Okay. So what's happening with that? Sun, say it makes rain, right? And also a Leo. Last one I ended in Pisces was it wasn't funny, but somebody was trying to sex spells to the Leo to get them pregnant, to get in that bloodline, um, in order to get in that bloodline because their bloodline was prosperous. Okay, so this could be countries also. I used to have a list of them. I got it somewhere, but I'm not going to talk. Look for it later. Okay. Just happened my Leo calling. Okay, so unblocking or cutting the cords. two things I'm gonna be. Whatever it's telling me to do, that's what I'm gonna say. Promise something and not doing it, out of forcing someone or forcing to get out. So cutting ties, okay. Cutting the cord. So no, these could be pipes as well. Stopping the water flow. Yeah, that could be to our cities. That could have to do with the data centers. Okay. I was talking about cutting the cord, somebody coming through the Astros, doing all that crazy shit, stopping control, out of control. Water could be out of control, flowing because it's spilled. So a whole lot of water is being spilled. Also, somebody stops control of someone. A villain releasing control. What is that? Transformation. Capricorn energy, the corporation, the industry, Hollywood, celebrities, not under control. Okay. I don't know why I want to say the regime. Of vampires, serial killers, people sucking stuff up. You know, like your energy. So energy. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's calling some issues. Found a new idea, enlightenment. Okay. Exercise as well. Toxic, sacrifice, danger. Okay. Getting stronger within oneself. So some dangers in doing that. Okay. Retaliation. Won't quit. Okay. The world turned upside down. Now that could be for losing the water, spilling, dams breaking, some kind of, you'll see if the tower come up. This also deep dark web, porno, stuff like that. It says hurting, confused, went against orders. So somebody disobeyed some rules, universal laws, and the sacrifice of they got to pay for the sacrifice. Okay. Trying to take somebody's free will. For instance, America made the decision for the data centers, knowing the repercussions, right, of our electricity, our water supply being dried up. The money was a big factor, and not considering somebody else's feelings, right? Yeah. Tragic. Makes crazy shit happen. So now they say that was the idea. Okay. Damn. Oh, so there's an agenda. There it is. There's an agenda. Oh, I forgot to show y'all that other video of the agenda these rich elite was talking about. Okay, King of Cups again. So that was the agenda, to use this person as a sacrifice to cause havoc, chaos. That's Scorpio and Aries energy. And you know, that's my extraterrestrials. Remember I put on there, if y'all seen my emojis or whatever, they're doing that. And this also could be a fire or something like that, or some type of storm, some type of flooding. It could be earthquake. It could be any kind of storm. Okay. So I think a lot of it, I was thinking, I said, well, maybe they, you know, people complaining, so to shut them up, they make a hurricane or whatever come. But how's that helping? But it's getting rid of people even faster. Okay. Getting away, fugitive, trying to leave. Good friends, happiness, needing to take and grant leap of faith. That's making somebody. Or making people are leaving. A lot of, I didn't show it out of drought towns, but there was a lot of droughts in different little towns, especially here in Texas. The water's drying up. So it's making people leave from their places. Then we got a lot of fires going on because it's too dry to rain because of the water system. Page of Swords. So we're in masculine energy. That's what this is. The Lion's Gate. Page of Swords reverse. No protection. Can't defend yourself. King of Wands reverse. Now this is fires, all type. Fire sign. Someone who is says overruled, dangerous, slow, and different patterns, different routines. Judgment reverse. Fallen, needs self-care. Now this could be a war tactic as well. Like I said, I should have, next time I'll put again, of what countries is what zodiac sign. So somebody's targeting a male Leo. Could be same sex, it don't have to be emperor. Now that's China to me. The boss as well, because chaos was first, right? Okay. Don't want to look at somebody. Don't want to believe that this is happening, or somebody could be in their masculine energy. There go another masculine sign. First we started off with the water. That's feminine. The cups, but it's a masculine energy. Knight of Swords reverse. Aggressive force. It would be like the British are coming, but it's reversed. So UK, something about the UK, or something pertaining to transportation, a call or a message is not being received to the Empress. Justice reverse. Libra energy. Crooked, unjust person. Okay, what's that about? Lies. Miscommunication and trouble. Five of Swords. Mad talk. Insults or injury. Resentful, unwilling to grant or allow. So here we go with a this is personal, person that's like you're in court or something like that. Could have a crooked lawyer, don't have to be. Could be like somebody not accountable, or somebody's not allowing somebody to enter their space. And here lies, and also I'm getting a country where somebody want to run through their country or run through them and take control, and the Empress ain't having it. Okay? Yeah, so there's some talk going on, some back and forth, a bed cleanup, looking back, not satisfied, walking away. Okay, so somebody can't, this person's staying firm. Ten of Wands reverse says caution. Somebody want to change the situation. They tried magic or they tried some type of storm, some type of chaos. Okay. Tried to weigh them down with some problems. Rainbow, the other side of the rainbow. So it could be the other side of the world. It could be the other side of different neighborhoods, different mindsets, you know, rich, poor, something like that. Street smarts, common sense, you know, book sense, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Hangman. Again, that's 3 times. Damn. Manipulate, stalling, egoism. So somebody's not liking that answer. Self-pity. They don't like how strong or person like standing on their square. Gemini energy, the lovers, people, places, and things. A neighborhood, community. So this is like a country that's refusing whatever they trying to run through there with. And because they refusing, they want to cause some havoc, corrupt violence, fake love through the neighborhood, leaving broke up. Okay, danger. Ain't that a bitch? That's been happening all the time. Obsessed with fucking with somebody. Because the person said no. Ain't that something? Yeah, they want to come. Any means necessary. I don't know, it could be simple as somebody want to borrow your car and you say, no, you can't ride my, no, because you fucked it up last time. Or just no. And they pissed off about it. Okay, Wheel of Fortune reverse. Oh, they want to stop you from its wheels. It could be a tires, maybe put your tires on flat. The lovers again, Gemini energy. The trickster spirit. Okay, like I say, people, places, and things could be happening to them or you, whatever the deal is, okay? Conflict. What is this? Showing no love, period. The person don't really care. They just want to do what they want to do because it's going to benefit them, not you. So whatever country this is, person you're dealing with, 4 cups reverse, stopping, stubborn, wanted empty. So they willing to risk everything, thinking better, realization that maybe they can't stop this flow you have. Yeah, they money frustrated. They want their money to go back. They want their money to come up. And yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I was thinking that was that card, 4 cups, 4 fours. So this the elite politicians, mayor, whatever, spending their money fast as they get it, don't know how to budget or save, right? But it's your problem for some reason. That's the people as well with the lovers here. Okay, so they got a problem with somebody trying to stop. You know, like I just gave y'all information. So they got a problem with me opening people's eyes to see what's really going on. Okay. 2 of Swords. Peace and harmony. Something you don't see coming or they didn't see that coming. Okay. You felt it or they felt it. It's got to do with water again. 2 of Swords. Okay, it's water in the background. Struggling, fighting back. So they didn't expect people to fight back. Whatever situation this might be. Okay? They want them to be weak. So they can con them into believing they can get this Wheel of Fortune. Or somebody's been conned into that and they upset. And they want to take it out on you. You the problem. When they put their own self in that bullshit. Yeah, they want to come around where you at, or show up with airplanes, fighter jets. You know how they do, and come fuck up some shit, right? Since they can't shut your mind. This could be activists or whatever you disagree in for swords. So it says keeping secrets. Okay. So if somebody can't sleep, Leo energy, the sun, or sun, could be black folks, could be the rising, who's that? Japan is the rising sun. 7 of Cups. Materialism, stopping their materialism, stopping their profit. Family. X. 6 of Swords. Getting out of troubled waters. Okay, this is yacht, swamps, small boat. Cruise. I could be taking a cruise, family cruise or whatever. But swamp with a lot of debt or a lot of could be debt, old rent money, bills. Now this could be the electricity as well, because we got Aquarius in there with 6 of Swords, making electricity high, bill high for this water situation we're talking about as well. Okay, so people standing up for that. So whoever, I don't know if the lady is a Scorpio, the first lady I showed y'all, she's an activist. She needs to be careful. I hope she has protection. And whoever else is activist. Okay. Finding a way out. Yeah, they trying to, now this is somebody who's trying to wait, to take care of their bills or whatever. But it's no arguments, no fuss. No competition. Let's see. What is this? That's my consular card. No concert tickets. Citation. Police ticket. Might be harassment. So I don't know if this is going back to the water, a boat. Somebody owe money, maybe trying to buy a ticket on a ferry, on a boat, or either renting one. Okay, 10 of Pentacles. Okay, find a way out to get to this money. Okay, family. It's also family. It's a lot of people. Those are planets. That's the Kabbalah. So different planets, different, let's say different countries. Ancestors, ancestor money. So this old money. It's old money. Okay. Inheritance. So somebody either trying to make sure they get this because they need pay their bills. You know what I'm saying? And somebody being an activist or come against something is stopping them from get what they want. Okay. Yeah. Bad investment. Hired. Paid for hire. Sold trade. Created on job. Business. So they needed to start stuff to make them function. Looks like we got the big corporations and all of them, you know what I'm saying? They don't care about the little person, but you start some trouble and they're going to want to get rid of you, right? Shut you up, basically. For their own agenda. They already rich. Or somebody trying to get to that status. They want to keep that flow going. So they're creating more and more things that don't agree with the public, the worker, right? And you seen he was talking about the main jobs that are going to be needed. So what about the rest of the people? They already got the robots already trying to take over the regular jobs. So they're forcing you to go and take those type of jobs in college and universities, but there's no guarantee that you will get a job. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of factors. I should have, it was a man saying they won't hire you. Something like that. I don't know. I didn't look at the video. I just seen briefly. 5 of Pentacles. Okay, but you outsmarted them. Okay, so so you're not. They want to leave you out of the equation, make you homeless, make you. They don't care what happens to the regular person's life. And then they got laws. If you homeless on the street, they don't want you there either. Some they put in camps. I even seen a video of a man say he won't go into a shelter because they was eating people. So there's it's not a win-win situation here. 10 of Cups, yeah. And they don't give a fuck. They're not in their feelings. Got the church involved, but that was the blueprint. That was the plan. Let me see. I want to see this. Let me pull these first. What did I do last? Let me pull these over here. And I want to show y'all that last. It says interview. Somebody having an interview. Rhode Island. Okay, Utah. Touchdown. Somebody could be in football. Maybe they got the other job. Put your whole armor on of the Lord on cover. Yeah, please. It was an accident. What was the accident? It was supposed to be you. Okay. Why y'all keep doing the same thing? You may need mental help. So they do. They keep on fucking over the people over and over. Somebody keep on coming at you over and over and over. If they can't get you, they get some people you love, people around you. Can't trust anybody. You know, they want you isolated. Crazy shit. Falcons, that's football, I think. Mom and daughter suspect. Now, there could be 2 ways. They could be involved, or they, know what's going on, or try to sacrifice them. So they can go a lot of ways. Stop doing wrong and go heal, I say, before it's too late. See, they're not looking at the end results. They're only looking at the now, what I was talking about at first. Get your heart right. Hello, Nigeria. So it might be a foreigner. This is an ancestor, Orisha Olukun, an ancient Orisha of the ocean and a warrior, also presiding in over womanhood. So taking care of whoever they're coming against. Chile, a food, or Chile, the country. Okay. Or it's chilly outside. Hello. Okay. Ranch house. He's wealthy. I know. Somebody, yeah. Set up, put drugs or evidence in car, home, or around you. Oh. So they're trying to set you up. Any means necessary. Lose money spell. Y'all just evil to the core. I say. Uno cards. I did you a favor. What's that? Penitentiary jail. Oh, wow. Iran. We're in war with them right now, right? Ohio. Another Orishas. Haitian voodoo. Santeria. Candomblé, Trinidad, Orisha, Umbada, for somebody using them. When these your people. Okay. Hello. How you gonna throw my people at me? That's crazy. Auto dealership. Massachusetts. So somebody might be either buying a car or getting a new car, or either renting a car, leasing a car, selling a car, a mechanic maybe, I don't know. No one will believe me. Yeah, that's what they hoping that would happen, okay? I mean, if you don't stand for nothing, what the fuck you here for? A debate. I said that. That's somebody debating. I don't know. Ori Justice Bull Bull Rotors, Nigeria. A nigga, Niger. Fake friend from past involved. May you want be under them anymore because you women involved. You won't be under them anymore. So they cursing your life. That's crazy. Charges dropped. So somebody tried to put somebody in jail and had no motive. Angels watching too. Hello, Morocco. Okay, definitely ancestors. Jobs comes easy to me. So somebody got hired, maybe because of doors open. I did see Eastern Stars, or just ancestors open them doors. Spells to switch lives with you. Oh, okay. I love y'all so much, but I'm not no fool. Hello. Death spell. Somebody try to take you out. We established that. Denmark. Struggling financially. That's what they want you at. Fake tears, crocodile tears. Liberia. For somebody lying about struggling. So what's that about? Solomon Islands. Stay home. Waxing moon. Spell to make you fail. Private property. Somebody came, I did see Area 51. Somebody came, come in your space. Assigned area. Detour. But they put somebody assigned to your space though. Abduction. Wow, I talked about that yesterday. Albania. Watch y'all kids, watch yourself. I didn't do it. This train already left the station, so I know somebody gonna catch the train, thinking New York or wherever they have the underground train or something, or a bus or something. That kept coming up about transportation, so y'all be careful. Don't lie to you. Don't fool yourself. This might not be happening. You be the main one get snatched. Always check your own sanity, okay? Oh, she talking rubbery. Okay. Gotta be careful. Nevada. Greedy ones you kill, you will kill it. Greedy ones you kill. Y'all kill again for money. Yeah, they'll kill them. Yeah. Deal with the mafia, okay? Or want to be. They might trigger them as well. Reload gun. Have your protection. Astral travel. Crystal ball to look or travel in your home. Ancestors on the job. That's why I said cutting the cord, and they're going to get caught in that astral realm and be in a coma. Or stuck in spiritual court. Rani, beauty of nature, spirit of the forest, herbs, plants, and trees. So she's telling you, eat right. Okay. Yeah, they really trying to destroy Mother Nature, man. And see, they think about that fucking money so damn much. And don't realize what they putting out there. And then if it dries all that up, see, let me show you. Here's it. Let me look for it. Hold on one second.
softer, firmer, more calm. Only at Sleep Number.
Hurry in during the Jeep, make this the summer event, and get 0% APR financing, $4,500 bonus cash on Jeep.
Where is it? Shorts. Where are my shorts at? They be taking my shit off so much though. And hopefully I can find it. What you talking about? Shit. It was a TikTok one. Damn it. Yeah, this is not gonna let me show you. Oh, man. Let me see. No, I went way back there, I think. Ah, fuck.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
That was so long ago. Oh, how do I get on unsabotage? What the fuck? Why did they put me on unsabotage? Wait a minute. Hold on. Why did I do that? That's my other channel. What the hell? It's not my shorts. Oh, bitch. I should have knew they was gonna fuck up my shit. Man, I'm sorry, y'all. I can't find it. It was talking about the agenda. Let me see. Son of a gun. Fucked over me. They show everybody else shit. They do not want me to show y'all that. Damn. Oh well. Sorry about that. Well, thank y'all anyway. That was the last of my reading. If I find it, I'll come back. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for listening. Love y'all. Bye.